packs out yet, of course. When they're out, we're going to share them with you. We're nice like that.
We are nice like that as well. And I think, what do you think is going through our players' heads here as all the prize cards are going to get distributed here? Let's have a look for Fernando. 1 copy of Boss Orders. Oh, Shinnosuke has prized the Prime Catcher and 1 copy of Roaring Moon EX for Fernando. The Chorus Tenacity Boss Orders. 2 copies of Crushing Hammer, Ross. They could be impactful. Yeah, and Prime Catcher and 1 Crushing Hammer prize for Shinnosuke here is not ideal because they are some of your gusting options. If you're worried about the ace spec, they're both playing Prime Catcher. Jobs are good. And Prime Catcher, did it win our bracket in the end yesterday? It certainly did. Of course it won the bracket. Well, it's won both the finals here. I'm just thinking when we made our caster predictions, should have just said Prime Catcher. Here we go, the Pokemon Trading Card Game Masters Division World Championships Final is going, and Shinnosuke is going first with an Earthen Vessel. And I think this Earthen Vessel is going to be super impactful. Shinnosuke is going to have to realistically try and get as much energy in play so you can try and limit the effectiveness of that initialization. Going to discard 1 copy of Basic Dark to get any 2 basic energy he likes from his deck. So let's take a little second to explain how Shinnosuke's deck is going to work. It revolves around that Roaring Moon EX, has 2 attacks. Frenzied Gouging just says, I'm going to KO what is ever in your active position, and then you take prize cards as well. However, it does have to do 200 damage to itself. Calamity Storm for 2 basic Dark Energy and a colorless. There's 100 damage. You may discard a stadium in play. If you do, it will do 120 more. Worth noting, 220, however, is 10 short of KOing an Iron Thorns EX. Yeah, that's one of the big things we need to be watching in this matchup. Calamity Storm, when this card was printed, 220 really was one of the magic numbers. There's very few Pokemon, like Roaring Moon and Iron Thorns, which have more than 220 HP as a basic. But it's become more common in the Scarlet and Violet block. So that means you're not always doing enough. So it looks like Shinnosuke is just going to attach your basic energy to active Roaring Moon and pass. That is Fernando's first turn here, and he's going to kick off this final run with an Arvin, letting you search for a tool, card, and an item. And it looks like he was ironing up that technical machine, Turbo Energize. Phenomenal turn 1 play, Turbo Energize, accelerates energy. And one of the things about Iron Thorns is, takes free energy. It's not an automatic thing where you can just get it going really quickly. And there's no other great energy acceleration we're playing here. So we're really relying on Turbo Energize and then using double Turbo as we go. And also going for that item card there. It's going to go and get, you know, Techno Radar gets more Iron Thorns. Yeah, Techno Radar lets you discard 1 card from your hand to search for any 2 future Pokemon, put them in your hand. That is going to search out 50% of Fernando's Pokemon, as we do see 2 Iron Thorns there being taken. One's going to hit the bench as well. Let's have a quick talk as we do see that technical machine Turbo Energize getting attached. We see a basic energy attached as well, and I imagine we'll see that Turbo Energize attack, letting you search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon any way you like. Fernando is going to really try and stick that Iron Thorns there in the active and make use of that initialization ability, which turns off all Rulebox Pokemon ability from your opponent while it's in that active. Yeah, it's not one of these decks, you know, these Roaring Moon decks don't rely on abilities like something like a Roaring Moon does, or a Charizard does, for instance, but it's going to turn off enough of the deck. It's going to turn off Squawkabilly, for instance, which is so important. Shinnosuke actually plays 2 of them. It's going to turn off Radiant Greninja. It's going to turn off Pecharunt, and its switching ability, it doesn't shut down the deck, but it's annoying enough. Here comes a Pokestop. All going to get 1 copy of Trekking Shoes, but did discard a Boss's Orders and a basic Dark Energy. That's actually not too bad, though. We are going to see the Trekking Shoes, letting you look at the top card of your deck. If you like it, pop it in your hand. If not, you can discard it and draw the next one. It is an Ultra Ball, and here we go. Shinnosuke is off to the race. He's going to discard a Pokemon Catcher and a Judge, search his deck for any Pokemon and pop it in his hand. One important point to note, Shinnosuke here is playing Dark Patch. It accelerates Darkness Energy from the discard to a benched Darkness Pokemon. Now, there's Darkness Energy in the discard. Wonderful. You can accelerate it. But you need to have a bench Darkness Pokemon as a target for that card. It won't go to the active. So we do get a non-EX Roaring Moon, just a little one there. And that's going to go down onto the bench. And if you want to start accelerating energy, you can. Energy is going to be really important here. And Shinnosuke has 2 ways to accelerate that. As you said, Ross, we do have Dark Patch. We also have Professor Cider's Vitality that lets you attach 1 basic energy to 2 of your ancient Pokemon. As we do see it being played there. So we are going to see 1 energy to the active and 1 to the bench. And here we go, we're going to see one there, and get to draw 3 as well. There is a chance we see a KO here from a Frenzied Gouging. There is a basic energy in hand. Shiinosuke can attack this turn and has a Dark Patch in hand as well. Shiinosuke off to the races.
And that is the thing about Frenzied Gouging. It says, what do you got in the active? Only joking, don't care. It's knocked out.
But it looks like, I think we're going to see a Calamity Storm there.
And it not discarding
the stadium.
I don't mind this, because
yes.
220 doesn't get a KO. Clearly wants Pokestop for the following turn. So saying, look, 100 damage, I'll KO you next turn.
Oh, we do see a heads-on crushing hammer there, though. Ross, that's going to discard an energy from the active Roaring Moon EX for Shiinosuke. Now, we did mention that energy is going to be really important for Shiinosuke. Fernando's going to be playing the mini-game of, can I remove these energies just as fast as you attach them? Fernando is going to play a Pokegear, going to grab that Colress's Tenacity, fantastic support, letting you search your deck for an energy card and the stadium. And you've already mentioned, Ross, that Shiinosuke really likes having that Pokestop. Well, Fernando might just say, well, you can't have it anymore as I put my Lost City down.
I mean, that is a real telegraph, right? I don't want to do extra damage. Who wants to do an extra 120 damage? No, no, no. You only do that if you really want to keep the stadium in play, which telegraphs to Fernando you want the stadium, which says to Fernando, you know, try not to replace my stadium, would you? And Fernando's like, yeah, I'm definitely getting rid of it. But I'm going to use it first. Gets a Lost Vacuum, but does lose a Judge and a Lost City. And we know there's a Lost City in hand, which is going to come down, replace that Pokestop, which is fun. And we can attach here and attack. We can do Volt Cyclone for 120, because remember, Double Turbo will reduce the damage done by 20.
Worth noting as well that the text on Volt Cyclone means you have to remove an energy from your active and put it on one of your bench Pokemon. So we do see that lightning energy cycloning to the bench, 120 damage onto Shiinosuke's active Roaring Moon EX. Now, does have an easy KO via Calamity Storm if he likes. Does have Pokemon Catcher in hand, but we do see Dark Patch being played, going to power up that bench Roaring Moon, who can now attack with Vengeance Fletchling, which does 70 plus 10 for each ancient card in your discard pile.
Really trying to figure out which the best one to try and KO is here. The one on the bench that's got free energy on is a very enticing target. But it looks like we are playing Pokemon Catcher here. We're going to see the flip. It is a Tails. Does not get the Iron Thorns into the... Here comes a Judge. This is the favorite toy of Fernando. But Shiinosuke is going, yeah, you know what, mate? I've liked this Judge.
This is really interesting because Judge isn't a card that we traditionally see in a standard format too often, but both players opting to play it here, reducing both players' hand size down to 4. Judge can quite honestly decide these games if players don't draw particularly well. Let's see what Shiinosuke has. Are there many options in that hand? I saw a Pokegear at the very least. So we'll have some options to try and grab some supporters at a later date.
And has a fully powered Roaring Moon on the bench.
Yes.
So has an attack of 20, getting a KO without having to self-damage. KO, can Fernando respond? The answer is, well, yeah, actually pretty easily.
Yeah, so we do see our first prize cards taken here in our Masters final. We do see Fernando start off a turn there with a poke as well. Yeah, we see a Judge there, and it looks like he took the Judge.
Yeah, he's basically saying, look, if you're going to judge me, I'm going to judge you right back. But right now, we're getting an extra energy on. I don't mind this.
Oh, Crushing Hammer here, Ross.
It's coming up.
It's a tail.
Which seems fair after the Pokemon Catcher. Here comes the Judge. And what we see here, remember, you have to move an energy when you attack with your Iron Thorns. So what he's basically doing is going, right, put an extra energy on here, and I can just move one to the bench afterwards. And that way, I've still got free energy on my active if it doesn't get KO'd, while having an energy on my bench. Taking advantage of the fact that you're moving energy with the attack.
This Judge could be really interesting here for Shiinosuke, because this Roaring Moon EX is going to get KO'd via this Volt Cyclone, and that bench Roaring Moon only has a quick game 1. As we do see Volt Cyclone, we're going to KO that Roaring Moon EX. Fernando evens it up at 4 prize cards each. Shiinosuke, what have you got in your hand? Can you respond?
Right, we've got 4 cards from the Judge. We've got there's a Nest Ball in hand. That's perfect. Will allow Shiinosuke the X. That is the big threat here. The single prize Roaring Moon, it takes a while to get up. This is a backup attacker, an extra attacker. It's a 1 of to 4 Roaring Moon EX. It's a nice little bonus. It's the EX you're going for. Professor Sada comes down. That attaches energy to each of those Pokemon if you wish, but no point attaching to the active. That would be a waste.
And worth noting, this Vengeance Fletchling is going to be really interesting, as he does have a basic energy to attach as well. Shinosuke is reloading his Roaring Moon. This Vengeance Fletchling is actually going to bring this Iron Thorns into range of a Calamity Storm, so this damage is super relevant, even though it won't be swinging for a KO. We have a Dark Patch as well. Shinosuke has 3 energy on that Roaring Moon EX on the bench, Ross. Oh my goodness.
And if you take a KO on the active here, you force N with Vengeance Fletchling. But here's the deal, 2 turns time, Sneisuke is winning this game because that's the game.
Here we see a Crushing Hammer here, Ross. Let's see what it is.
It's
Tails. Energy is safe.
Now, not flipping heads on this Crushing Hammer is Fernando so far. Has got the attack, but it's not. It is going to get a KO. It's going to be a clean KO, actually, but it's a Prime Catcher onto the benched Roaring Moon EX. Will need to retreat, which of course it can because of that Future Boost energy capsule. But it basically means, you know, that's a 2-hit KO. You're not 1-hit KO in this. And I just told you it was going to reel off 2 KOs in a row. So you know what? Yes. Get this. Damage it now. It's not going to get 2 KOs. It's only going to get 1.
You see Fernando going to play that Earthen Vessel and discard 1 card from your hand to get any 2 basic energy. That Prime Catcher was super important. We do see an energy attachment to the axe. Now bear in mind, or we do see a cost thanks to that Future Booster energy capsule. We see some Pokemon catches. We see some double turbo energy. We see a cancelling clone.
Love that. Future Boost on both of them means you map for Sneisuke there to just hit with Vengeance Fletchling and then just hit twice in a row with the EX and win the game. You're now forcing a 3rd Roaring Moon EX to come out.
Here we go, Pokestop, Ultra Ball, and then the Pheasantipity EX worth initialization ability. We are going to see an Ultra Ball here, though. Now, I've been very intrigued to see what Shinosuke opts to go for. The Petulant, while it can't use this ability, is actually a super relevant attacker in this matchup, dealing 60 for each prize card your opponent has taken with that Irritated Outburst attack, and Ross only does it for 2 basic energy. That right there could be an impactful attack.
It's the perfect Pokemon with which to take your final 2 prizes.
Yes.
When you're tied 4 prizes taken each, it does 240 for 2 energy. You can Frenzied Gouging for 3 energy, or you can Irritate it absolutely perfectly. And you know what? Yeah, that sounds good to me. But instead, going for the only good if you give up those next 2 prizes. Sneisuke, I think, here is trying to not give up prizes. Can they get a KO with Vengeance Fletchling here?
I wouldn't have thought so. You have to consult the discard pile. That was a failed search there on that Pokegear 3.0. Going to shuffle those cards back into the deck.
Don't go Petulant, because 3 prizes taken means Petulant's no good. Here we go with that stretcher, and it's getting an energy. Roaring Moon comes down with the...
So let's keep an eye on that. Over to Fernando, going to promote that Iron Thorns into the active, just consulting the discard pile. And it seems to be Shinosuke, I think, is in the driver's seat here. Does have plenty of attackers with plenty of energy. That is Fernando. That is not what Fernando wants to have happen. Looks like going to be playing a Pokemon Catcher, perhaps. And cancelling Cologne first into Ironer.
Yeah, that kind of energy lotto. We've got double turbo, and we've got a... Is that a Giovanni?
As a Giovanni's Charisma, letting you actually attack with an Iron Thorns in 1 turn if you like, because it lets you attach 1 energy to your active from your hand and also remove an energy from your opponent's active and pop it back into their hand. Not going to be super relevant in this game, but we could see it in games.
We'll win the game. What are we looking at, Shay?
But we are going to see the gouging would force sudden death. I think if that was in the game 3 scenario. Oh, we do see a Earthen Vessel, and we do see the Radiant Greninja.
There is a fresh Roaring Moon on the bench.
Yes.
So if we can get the energy on that, then you will be able to KO without KOing yourself, and you would get the clean win there.
Oh, yes, sorry, you are correct.
Yes. Is absolutely fine. Your Roaring Moon is fine. I imagine Vengeance Fletchling is not that close. So we're looking for Petulant, or we're looking for Roaring Moon. Those are the 2 cards we're looking for here to get an attack off and send Sneisuke 1 game up in this Masters Division final. There's an energy, 1 Dark Patch will do it.
Doesn't have it, though, so we're going to see the Vengeance Fletchling there. And it's fine. No, this is perfectly fine. Fernando doesn't have a way to KO a Roaring Moon in 1 turn, so this damage is super relevant. Basically saying that my Calamity Storm...
Sneisuke does have Prime Catcher in, or did he still have it? It got Ione. Will allow Fernando to attach an energy if he wishes. So we get a new Iron Thorns into the active. We attach the double turbo.
Wow.
We hit for 120.
Yes.
You need a switch and you need gusting will win the game, because at this stage, you can KO the benched Iron Thorns with your non-EX Roaring Moon. That is an option, but we'll live. So I know it's a lot to ask, but you know, Prime Catcher?
Don't think we have available. We see a basic energy.
We
have a Pecharunt. Basic energy attached to that. It's Fletchling Roaring Moon. And we'll see a Vengeance Fletchling again.
And this worries me a tiny bit, yeah. Now, I don't like putting the Roaring Moon active.
Yeah.
Because if it gets KO'd, you lose all of your energy and you might not have an attacker next turn. So a Roaring Moon, again, I don't think there's really a right and wrong answer here. You're just playing the percentages. What is more likely to end up going wrong for you? So, Fernando will be the game.
Oh,
it's not the game yet.
Gracious me.
And unfortunately has to attach double turbo to pay retreat. And this will be a KO. So all the energy is gone. And now the Vessel, Energy, and Nestball, neither of which are great options, frankly.
We are still vulnerable to a boss's orders or Pokemon Catcher, but Shiinosuke does still have a route to victory here.
Has a route to victory, but it's not much fun when you're in game 1 of the Masters final and you're like, you're right, it is not over, but it's not the position I really want to put myself in if I can help it. But there is no option, not even an energy attachment.
No. Oh, boss's orders is in hand, but it won't have the energy to attack, actually.
Nope, there's 2 energy. And this is the thing. We've talked about using Volt Cyclone's energy moving as an advantage, and sometimes it is.
Yep.
But sometimes it spreads out your energy so much you don't have a valid attacker. And I hate to say it, this is one of those times where it spread the energy out a bit too thin.
Ooh.
Boss's orders onto the Roaring Moon, but it's a pass. Now Shiinosuke has one more turn.
Trekking Shoes.
It's a Pokemon Catcher, but there's no attacker.
No, we don't need that. Oh, and a Squawker Billy. A bit of a Squawker Silly here. We don't need that, and it looks like we are going to see a pass back.
And it's an energy for the game! Fernando takes game 1 of the Masters Division final, tops out the energy, and that is all she wrote for game 1. We're just selling in here, Shay. We've still got 2 games to go.
Fernando proving to be a thorn in Shiinosuke's side there as he wins game 1, only 1 game away from becoming a Masters champion, the first one in Chile, and get that $50,000 prize. Shiinosuke still can perfectly do well here, win 2 in a row, but now Fernando is in the driver's seat. And listen to that crowd behind us. They are loving it.
And if you can all do me a favor right now, and we've got a replay. I'll ask you a favor when we get out of the replay. Let's see how game 1 went down. So we did see that big KO early from Shiinosuke there, putting himself in a great position early in the game. But that was not the end of the story. We saw a return KO from Fernando here, but Shiinosuke, after one more KO, it started going less well.
Yeah, as we do see the dark patch there, the early to mid game for Shiinosuke was exactly what he needed. Just getting energy in play and throwing out damage. Fernando was able to weather the storm though and grind this game back with some clutch Pokemon Catcher and boss's orders, and even the Giovanni's Charisma of all things proving super relevant. There we do see a Catcher's Tails that would have been very impactful there, but the Vengeance Fletchling I think did get a lot of value here, Ross.
Absolutely.
But just not enough to where Shiinosuke could win.
Shiinosuke put himself in a position to win this game, but ran out of attackers, and that's what Iron Thorns does. Runs out of attackers, top decks and energy, wins game 1. Now, my request, the favor I've got to ask you guys, when you rewatch this stream, and you will, because it's been a phenomenal weekend, please skip over the bit where I said I wasn't taking Iron Thorns as a legitimate contender to win the World Championship, because I think at this stage it's fair to say I've been proven well and truly wrong. It is 1 game up in this Masters Division final, and I think we just saw a double mulligan from both players.
Yeah, worth noting that Fernando's deck only plays 4 basic Pokemon, so mulligans could be a real big impactful part of the game. I think there's another mini game here that we need to keep an eye on here for Shiinosuke, is that those energy only plays 9 copies. So Castle Professor Sada and Dark Patch are going to be super impactful for getting them back into play. We do see another mulligan there for Fernando. But whew, let's just take a deep breath, everyone, and compose ourselves here in this game too. What do you think is going through Shiinosuke's head, Ross?
Well, I'm thinking, you know what? That game was winnable. It just didn't go my way at the end. I know this deck can run me out of energy. It did run me out of energy. but I had a turn where Prime Catcher was the win, and they got Iono the turn before. This is a winnable game, and also I'm going second here. Yeah. I'm looking for a big, well, I assume going second, so I'm looking for a big KO as early as possible. I have had a quick little sneaky look at Snake's Case prizes here, and there's a Dark Patch and an Energy, but actually has managed to prize Pheasantipity and Squawkabilly, which are wonderful prizes, because those cards are terrible in this matchup.
Yeah, you'll never be able to get used to that subjugating changeability or that Squawk and See, so have them in the prize cards, that's perfectly fine by me. Fernando did get another mulligan there, so Shiinosuke will at minimum be starting the game here with 2 extra cards to start. And yeah, there is actually a real easy route for Shiinosuke to win here. It's because Bolt Cyclone is so energy intensive. If you get a big early KO before Fernando has a chance to get energy in play, you could actually wrap up a quick game 2. It is a possibility. Let's see, does Fernando have a basic? The answer is he does not. Now, this is actually really interesting here, Ross. Shiinosuke wants to get a lot of energy into play. That will rely on cards like Professor Sada, Earthen Vessel, and Dark Patch. If you give Shiinosuke extra cards to start this game, you give him extra opportunity and resources to flood the board with energy.
Yeah, and that's always fun when you can do that. Worth noting, Fernando only actually plays 1 copy of Turbo Energize. Now, when you combine that with the 4 copies of Arven, it becomes easier. But this is not a given that we're going to see a turn 1 Turbo Energize like we did last game. We're up to 4 mulligans here. Don't worry, we've got a lovely view here where we can see the die, which is just rolling over again and again. 4 extra cards is going to be big.
Now, you mentioned here all the way back in round 3 that there is such a thing as the Judge Bull here, Ross, that does come into play when there is a lot of mulligans. Why don't you tell the people about that?
Basically, if you mulligan again and again and again and again and again, there comes a point where the judge goes, look, I love you guys, but we need to start this game. So they just reveal cards from the top of the deck until a basic is revealed, and that basic goes into play as your active Pokemon, and then you draw an opening hand of 6 cards with your active. That makes 7. It's actually sometimes a massive disadvantage, because a Judge Ball will reveal a bunch of cards from your deck, but of course we've just had game 1. Shiinosuke at this point kind of knows what Fernando's playing. But right now, Shiinosuke is starting with a minimum of 5 extra cards. And remember, you're looking for a big explosive turn 1 with lots of energy flooding the board. This will help.
It will. We do see another mulligan there. And it's worth noting, he said, you know, that would reveal cards from the list. I would imagine that both players have been studying and trying to work out exactly what both players are playing. I also would imagine, if this was me, if I was Shiinosuke or Fernando, my last night would have been testing this matchup a lot. And it might have been friendly, you know, it might have been quite hard for Fernando to try and get copies of Roaring Moon EX to test against, because I don't think it was on many people's radar.
Yeah, a bunch of people here would have brought multiple decks thinking, right, I can switch last minute, which is, for the record, generally a bad idea. But lots of people would have brought lots of decks here. Don't know how many people have brought a sleeved up Roaring Moon to the tournament here. Do we have? We're up to 7 mulligans here. There's a couple of dice now. I say dice, we're into plural on top of Shiinosuke's deck here that we are tracking along for you. We're on to 7 mulligans. That is an opening hand of 14 cards, Shay.
Yeah, double what you normally would have. And
a lot of cards, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards. And I think if you are Shiinosuke here, where you have to win these next 2 games to become a world champion, I would love the idea of having 7 extra cards to start the game. Fernando, do you have a basic? He does not.
Okay. Are we finally going to see a Judge Ball?
I think, off the top of my head, I think it's 8, right? When you get to 8, that is when the Judge Ball starts, but maybe not, actually.
I'll be honest with you, I've not looked it up. I don't know how strict it is, but look, we got 2 phenomenal table judges there.
Yep, for sure.
So it's nothing we have to worry about. The judges are going to figure this one out for us, as we're going to have a minimum of 8 extra cards drawn by Shiinosuke here so that they can start their turn. And I'm just putting it out there. I think they're probably going to have a good turn, because most people would quite like a 15-card opening hand. So, and there is a discussion going on. I think
we are going to see the Judge Ball. I was right at 8, by the way. Thank you very much. Knowing the rule book here, Albert, but I think we might be seeing it. I think Table Judge there just describing exactly what the process is. Probably don't see it too often. I've actually never had this happen in a game that I've played in or a game that I've seen. This is exciting.
I did play a Quadrakian deck way back in the day, and I did have a Judge Ball I don't think it was quite as strict back then, but I think I mulliganed something like 12 times and a judge came and did a judge ball. It was some ridiculous number. But I've never casted a game of judge ball before, and I've casted a lot of games. But this is a downside, and this is actually, it's why we see Fernando playing a bunch of Io and a bunch of judge, because actually, this is going to happen, and you don't want to give your opponent their entire deck for the first couple of turns, so it is quite important, right? And it does look like we have a table judge shuffling up. Is this the first ever World Championships judge ball?
I think it might be, and here we go. So the judge is going to keep revealing. Oh, now we get one at the third.
Wouldn't have even been a mulligan.
No, it wouldn't have even been a mulligan. So, yeah, there we go. That is the judge ball concluded. So now Fernando will start the game there with that Iron Thorn. Now, I wonder, since Iron Thorns was the 6th most popular deck here at the World Championships, I wonder how often this happened, throughout the course of the event. Because quite honestly, when you play 4 basic Pokemon, you have to imagine that's quite a common occurrence.
So the maths is, and this is super rough, all right, don't judge me too harshly, but if you play 4 copies of a card in a deck, you've got a roughly just under 50% chance of drawing it in your opening hand if you play a full 4. So you definitely should not mulligan 8 times very much at all. So there is Sneisuke going, look, I know how this matchup works, because here's the deal, you don't have to take all the mulligans. You have to announce how many you're taking, but you don't have to take them all. And it does look like Turbo Energize is prized.
And it looks like Shiinosuke here is starting us off here in our game 2 in our Masters Worlds final. But yes, Fernando has prized that 1 copy of Turbo Energize. We saw it get used a lot in game 1. Fernando will not have option to use that. And Shiinosuke does have prized that Serendipity, Dark Patch, Pokestop, Squawkabilly, Trekking Shoes, and Basic Dark Energy. In all honesty, not the worst of prizes there for Shiinosuke. Has so many cards to play here, just trying to work out how do I optimize this turn 1.
And prizing 2 judges after you gave your opponent an extra 8 cards of a mulligan, frankly not ideal. There's 3 judge and 1 Io in the list. That's how you hand disrupt after something like a judge ball. It's going to be difficult for Fernando to pull that off next turn. So
here we go.
We've got an Earthen Vessel discarding what I think might have been the only energy in the hand, actually. But then you go and search out a couple more. The goal here is simple. Attach an energy, try and get a couple of Dark Patch, get some Pokemon down. That is your goal before you start getting disrupted. If you can get a few Pokemon down, an energy and 1 or 2 Dark Patch, that's pretty much your ideal turn 1 here.
Yeah, and that seems perfectly fine to me, especially if we've got a big hand like that. Hopefully, it should be easier for Shiinosuke to do that. Has got the Prime Catcher currently in hand as well. Look at, you see that flash of pink there from the Ace Spec. We see Ultra Ball, we see a Nest Ball being eyed up here. I imagine this would be for a big Roaring Moon EX.
Yeah, you got to think so at some point. That Roaring Moon is going to be pretty big. We've got energy in hand now. We do have Prime Catcher in hand.
Yeah.
Did I spy a Dark Patch at the back of the hand? Not entirely sure. Let's do a Nest Ball here and figure it out later.
Like that second Nest Ball, I think was getting failed there by the looks of it. It's going to shuffle up the deck. And yeah, it looks like shuffling up the deck. Shiinosuke has a ton of resource there. And is there a dark? You'd like to imagine there'd be a Dark Patch. It looks like we see an energy attached to the active Roaring Moon. No, and a pass.
Okay, not the best turn 1 after a 15-card opening hand. I'm going to be honest with you. We do see a Pokegear coming down, and really, Fernando's looking for a Judge or an Io here, because that hand is absurd. I don't see one. I only see Colress's Tenacity and Professor's Research, and we really want a hand disruption. There's an Arven in hand and a Giovanni. I don't think Fernando's been able to find a Judge or an Io here, and Sneisuke still has a 10-card hand.
Yeah.
You do not want them to have that big a hand. It's why you play these cards, but 2 judges in the prizes is going to make it much more difficult to find it in the deck.
Yeah, 2 judges in the prize and that Turbo Energize. So if Fernando tries to grab that, will not be able to. Let's see what Fernando opts to do here. Let's see that Pokemon Catcher is going to be really impactful. We'll turn off Dark Patch to the bench, and we do see a head. So now that Roaring Moon EX will not be able to be accelerated to via Dark Patch.
And here's why we probably saw the failed Nest Ball last turn. This is a deck that relies on Pecharunt switching your active. Too many bench Pokemon with no energy on means lots of good gusting targets, so you keep it small and you try and keep all of your Pokemon with energy on, so they're all valid attackers. You're not going to play much Switch if you're playing Pecharunt. So that Pokemon Catcher potentially very, very big.
We did see the Professor's Research there being played for Fernando. Going to draw 7 cards in a Techno Radar. Going to discard a basic Lightning Energy to search for 2 future Pokemon. Now, we did see some Crushing Hammer in that hand, which might be seen played, unsure, but we do see that Techno Radar concluding for the 2 copies of Iron Thorns. And worth noting, this is actually Fernando's first time having a deck search, so we'll be trying to work out what is in those prize cards.
Yeah, and this is a game where with no Turbo Energize, the turn 1 KO or the turn 2 KO going first would have been absolutely huge. Your opponent doesn't have a way to accelerate energy. If you can get a big Frenzied Gouging KO turn 1 or turn 2 going first, that gets rid of all the energy, and Fernando has to double attach in order to attack. But now, with an active Roaring Moon with no energy, seems like even an opening hand of 15 cards has not gone as Snake where they want to be.
We are just going to see Future Booster Energy Capsule attached to both a retreat and a pass. All right, Shiinosuke, what can we do? Pokestop's going to end the field and be activated. Night Stretcher, Pokemon Catcher, Roaring Moon EX.
Not too bad. I also had a quick gander at the list. There is exactly 1 switching card in the list, and you know what that is?
I'm going to guess that is that A-Spec Prime Catcher.
Which you do not want to use as a switch. It's way better as Gusting, but with Pecharunt turned off and will be turned off for the entire game, that is essentially your only option here. So this is an awkward situation. You've got a free energy attacker stuck in the active. It's not where you want to be by any stretch.
I think there's a world. I can see basic energy in hand. I can see Prime Catcher, and I think 2 copies of Dark Patch. We could see this Ultra Ball being played here. Going to grab a Roaring Moon EX, attach Dark Patch, Prime Catcher, and then you could KO the bench Iron Thorns EX from Fernando, and remove the energy as well. Let's say that's what happens. We're going to see an energy attached to the active.
That would be huge. If we could pull that off.
Here is Dark
Patch onto the Frenzied Gouging, the... That's not Frenzied Gouging, the...
Vengeance Fletchling.
Thank you. Vengeance Fletchling, Roaring Moon on the bench. So we're not going for that bigger...
But there is the Prime Catcher there, Ross.
You had to Prime Catcher. It's your only switching target. And now we're going to see Vengeance Fletchling for, frankly, not enough. Unless we see a manual retreat. There's a judge. I love this.
This is, yeah.
You look at your opponent's board and you go, look, you don't have double turbo energy right now. You just don't have it.
Yep.
So I'm just going to judge you, and either you draw double turbo, or you literally can't attack next turn, and I get a cheeky 2-hit KO with this, and then you basically lose the game. Love it. Put your opponent in a situation where you don't think they're going to be able to attack. That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, and it could be the Disruption deck getting disrupted here from the judge. We do see energy. We see a Professor Sar. That's going to be really impactful later on. And we do see a Roaring Moon EX in the hand as well. Ancient cards in a discard pile. So that would have been 90. Tenacity. Letting you search your deck for an energy card and a stadium. Double turbo energy quickly getting taken there for Fernando. Now, normally that would reduce damage down from Volt Cyclone down to 120. But thanks to that Future Booster energy capsule, that Volt Cyclone will KO Shiinosuke's active Roaring Moon.
And that was still, I think it was a good bet from Snezky. Yeah, not ideal. Didn't really give him any value there at all with the judge. Didn't work out, unfortunately. And things are starting to look pretty bad for Snezky very quickly.
Can reload and take a KO.
It looked bad, and actually just drew a second Professor Sada's Vitality off of the first. Very good for next turn. And maybe it's not all over yet, because now we're going to see a 2-prize KO. You're going to go up by 1 prize, and it's all about the energy at this point. So Snezky lost game 1 because they ran out of energy. That's how they lost. Here, can you keep the energy?
Now, there's actually something I want to keep an eye on. With that Iron Thorns getting discarded from the Pokestop, how many Iron Thorns does Fernando have access to? So obviously, we can see 2 there in the discard pile, 1 in the active, so only has 1 more available, I believe, if it is in hand. Or it could be in the deck. That's something to keep an eye on.
As a tech, get it out of the deck now. But you're right, that's it. That's all the Iron Thorns that are available. So it's going to make things more awkward in the late game, trying to, because we saw last time.
We are going to see the basic energy getting attached there as the Techno Radar does conclude. Going to grab that Iron Thorns and attach a Future Booster energy capsule to it as well. We do see a Pokemon Catcher in the hand there for Fernando. We are going to play it as well. Let's see what we get. It's a heads.
And I like this because I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking Frenzied Gouging, Frenzied Gouging, Frenzied Gouging, Frenzied Gouging. Because there's only 3 oh, yeah, it does get moved, I suppose. I just want to get rid of all the energy, Shay. I want a Frenzied Gouging. And if I've got 2 Roaring Moon, I do not care if I self-KO.
Yes. I was about to say, we could just see an energy attachment from this Earthen Vessel. We could see Professor Sada, Frenzied Gouging, get rid of that Iron Force and say, right, I'm going to win next turn. What can you do about it? Pokemon Catcher and the Darkness Energy as well. Looks like Iron Up, another Roaring Moon, or just going to consult Hammer.
2 Frenzied Gouging in a row would win this. And what would be kind of funny is you'd probably buy 1 prize if you did it, so you're totally okay giving your opponent 4 prizes. 2 important, of course, Petron also a decent shout. Here comes your Professor Sada attaching an energy.
So there we go, 1 on the active. We're going to see Trekking Shoes, going to get rid of the Squawkabilly. Love to see that. Going to grab the Nest Ball there by the looks of it. Energy in the hand there as well for Shiinosuke. Nest Ball, fail. We are now going to see Professor Sada drawn into for the rest of this game. Shiinosuke will be able to continue attacking.
It's all about the energy at this game. They're ahead on prizes. They're about to go up 4-1. Well, assuming they official thing, you could manually retreat here in Frenzied Gouging with a fresh Roaring Moon. No, you do it, you KO yourself, you give up 2 prizes, and you don't care and Augusta around it.
No.
So unless they can hit double Crushing Hammer, or basically, if Sneisuke gets free energy on that Roaring Moon next turn, he will win this game. So even if you hit double Crushing Hammer, you can still Sada an attachment for turn.
And this is the downside of this Iron Thorns EX deck. Sure, it's fine as Charisma. There is a lot of disruption cards, but that all comes at the downside of your offensive output being stuck at 140 or 160 maximum. You do have no one-shot options available in your deck. Fernando is going to play that Professor's Research. Now, are we going to see some energy disruption here, Ross? Fernando needs to stay in this game.
There's a Crushing Hammer.
There is 1 Crushing Hammer. Here we go. This is to decide game 2.
It's ahead. So he's still in the game for now, forcing Sneisuke to have 2 for Sneisuke. And we know that we've got an energy in hand, and that is the game. Sneisuke goes up, well, evens it up, I should say. 1-1. We got a game 3, and Shay, I'm a selfish man. We are on the stage at the World Championship for Casting World's Final. I don't want to get here.
Shiinosuke cooking up an absolute calamity storm there to win game 2. We're going to get a game 3. Let's make some noise for game 3 here in the crowd. I cannot wait to get this started. Oh my goodness, we're going to put a show on here. Shiinosuke doing his best to even it up. And you know what I love about this? Anything can happen if we try.
Yeah, let's go to the replay and take that story of game 2 back one more time, because we saw some big KOs. We actually saw the first prize taken by Fernando here with that Iron Thorns EX, but it would be the only prize they took of their own attack. We saw a big KO with Roaring Moon without Frenzied Gouging, but then it was the Frenzied Gouging show. We saw Frenzied Gouging taking a KO and giving up 2 prizes, and this is what I asked for, Shay. I wanted double Frenzied Gouging.
Yep.
Give your opponent 4 prizes and still win the game, and that is what we got.
Exactly that, and Shiinosuke just had the basic energy there to attack. And I said at the start of the game, this is Shiinosuke's route to victory is to just keep these extra resources. And here we go, our game 3 is getting decided and started here, but only an attachment and a pass for Fernando over to Shiinosuke, who has led that basic Roaring Moon. Going to start the game off here with Trekking Shoes, discarding a basic Dark Energy. And
I'm not saying it's going to happen, Shay, but it is possible that we could see a Frenzied Gouging turn 1 here and end the match. We could see. I don't know how likely it is. Sneisuke keeps choosing to go first, so that tells us that they're
cards there for Shiinosuke. That's the only switching card there. 1 Roaring Moon, Pokegear, Boss's Orders as well. Over Fernando has prized Penny, Iron Thorns, Basic Lightning Energy, Pokegear, Energy Lotto, and a Professor's Research. Now, I'm really interested to see that since Fernando didn't mulligan at all there, if there's extra resources that Shiinosuke had to start game 2, if it's going to be super impactful here.
Well, we're going to ask, but here's the thing, you don't actually have to win the game turn 1. It would be fun to win the game turn 1. You don't actually have to do so.
No.
What you really need to do is what you did in the first 2 games. You need to get your basics down. You needn't go for Professor Sada's Vitality, for instance.
Fantastic, and this 70 damage is here for Fernando is essentially useless, as Shiinosuke only plays over...
In game 2, Shay, we saw a little bit of chip damage with the Calamity Store, or the Vengeance Fletchling. And then we saw KO, and then we saw double Frenzied Gouging, and that was a route to victory. And the only thing stopping Sneisuke was energy.
We see a Pokestop going to get rid of an Iron Note, a Professor's Research, but did get a Techno Radar. Now, that might be super impactful. Fernando only has 1 Pokemon in play.
The Prime Catcher is prized for Sneisuke, yeah?
We have.
Okay, that's good. Because what's prized for Fernando is the 1 of Penny.
Yes.
Which is a way
Oh, we do see a catch your heads there. Sorry, Ross. That's going to get the Roaring Moon EX into the active.
Onto that Roaring Moon EX. I think we're probably too early in the game for a Penny here, because you need to kind of establish your board. You need to set up.
Yes.
However, Penny to heal after the damage with Vengeance Fletchling is a pretty good option.
Yep.
But not when the only copy of Penny is in your prize. Obviously, we know we're getting 2 Iron Thorns. You play 4 in the deck. It makes the, it makes this a very predictable card, shall we say. We
do see the Colress Tenacity being used as well. Going to grab that basic Lightning Energy and the Lost City as well. See if Fernando probably doesn't want to put Lost, or actually might want to put Lost City in play. Apologize to get around that Pokestop. But that does give a Calamity Storm a way to get extra damage without using your own stadiums.
It does indeed. So we see the Iron Thorns hitting the bench here, having a little bit of backup. There goes Lost City to get rid of the Pokestop. Energy 20 reduction from double turbo energy. Now, can Sneijder find a Waveman from turn?
It really does. Professor Sard is going to be super impactful here. That catcher head is going to be really awkward for Shinnosuke to sort of hurdle over, but if he can, could be in a very strong position.
Better than the other off this judge, and they both get 4 cards. If one plays better than the draws better than the other, that could end up deciding this game. But I'll tell you, difference. Sneijder plays Squawkabilly, Raiding Greninja, and Pheasantipity.
Turbo Energy there. Didn't quite get to see what Shinnosuke had. I see Ultra Ball here, Dark Patch, and a Basic Energy. All really good cards to have in this scenario. Won't be able to move this Roaring Moon EX out the active.
No! But we're looking for a Colress. We're looking for a Lightning Energy. Of course, Colress's Tenacity can actually grab a basic or a special energy.
Yes.
We're going for Arven instead here. We've got a Future Boost Energy Capsule, and with double turbo in hand, you can retreat the active, attach double turbo, and attack with your benched Iron Thorns, which will be enough to KO.
It would be, but then that would mean that you'd have 2 Iron Thorns with damage on, could be impactful later on. But you're right, it is definitely a possibility. So we are going to see that Future Boost Energy Capsule being taken. Arven, just deciding there, Fernando, on what to take off that item card, is going to go for the Techno Radar.
And I think at some point, if we do see lots of damaged Iron Thorns, we're going to see this single prize Roaring Moon be weaved in here.
Yes.
Because it's a way to take a prize and say to your opponent, if you KO this, you're not helping your prize map. It's as if you didn't really take a KO, because it's the only one prize.
And we are going to see a Volt Cyclone for a KO. Fernando takes the first prize card here in our Game 3 Masters Final. And that Roaring Moon has to go to the...
With this Roaring Moon, that single prize, because then you're giving up that one prize for kind of nothing.
Like that.
Because, well, I mean, essentially the route here is really simple. You just go...
Play. That's going to make it a lot harder for Shinnosuke to do that exact prize map with those attacks, as you mentioned. We see an energy attached to the active. Need a Future Booster Energy Capsule to make sure you actually get... We'll be getting sent to the Lost Zone, so that won't be getting any extra Ancient cards there. Shinnosuke does promote the fresh Roaring Moon here, though. We'll be able to take some prize cards at the very least. Let's see if Shinnosuke can...
On the bounce here. That should still give them the victory. That should still be enough to get them over... Because, unfortunately, Fernando now is going to be 2-hit KOing for the rest of the game.
Oh, I think we just saw a Calamity Energy in hand. I think he should off that Penny last turn, right? So we'll be able to attack.
He had 2 in hand when he attached the last one.
Okay.
So, yes, there is 1 in hand. We are good. So there goes the energy to the active. We're going to get an attack off here. And
okay, it's getting very exciting here. We do see this Arven being played. Now, one that we're going to grab here. Future Boost Energy Capsule is very nice. It's going to boost damage. Just sort of avoid KOs. And let's see what the item card here is, though. Crushing, could be iron up the Crushing Hammer. That would be a thorn in Shinnosuke's side, because we've already established that Shinnosuke needs to get loads of energy in play to have attackers ready to go. Crushing Hammer could be a thorn in Shinnosuke's side there and stop him doing that.
Absolutely could. That generally is the right decision in this matchup. Yes, it's on a coin flip, but like we keep saying, Sneijder here, all the question is, can you keep the energy on the board?
Here we do see that Crushing Hammer being played there. Sorry, what's and it's ahead!
That is a big flip. Yes, Sneijder is going to be able to replace that energy, but it means that the next Roaring Moon is going to be 1 energy further away from coming out. It is not what you are looking for. So we're going to see an energy attachment to the bench.
No, you have to attack DG to the... We do see that Volt Cyclone of 140. Now, Shinnosuke, Professor Sada here would be huge. Does he have it in hand? I can see a Roaring Moon. I can see an Ultra Ball at the very least. He's going to consult the discard pile. We do need to see another attacker from Shiinosuke at some point if he wants to continue his run of becoming a world champion.
And the thing is, we're not like we were in Game 2. In Game 2, Sneisuke could just go, well, nah, it's all right, it's a frenzied gouging, I don't care if I KO myself. Well, now you're down by a prize. You actually do care if you KO yourself. So you need to be a little bit careful. Or maybe you force a sudden death game because you go, you know what?
Yeah.
I feel great in sudden death in this particular matchup. We're away from that yet, though.
Is a possibility. That would be incredible. Let's see what Shiinosuke does. Does bench a Roaring Moon by the looks of it? We are, yep. That's good, but this is where that Crushing Hammer is going to be super impactful, because now you would love to bench that and attach your energy to it, but instead you have to just attach to the active just to keep up tempo, but that means you're not getting other attackers lined up. It doesn't look like Professor Sada is currently available. No, we do see a Pokemon catcher here, though.
And we
it's
see
ahead. Okay, so that's going to get that Iron Thorns EX into the active with the double turbo energy. We are going to see that Roaring Moon EX getting benched potentially.
Sneisuke's handy, like, you're not playing a supporter card of any description here. You've got 2 Ultra Ball and a Pokemon which I think might be a Roaring Moon. And that's it. That's all you've got.
We are going to see a trekking shoes, it looks like, out of the prize cards. Fernando, what can we do here? Is there a double turbo energy in that? I don't think there is.
We basically, what Sneisuke's Pokegear finds a Colress. Colress will find the double turbo. That means that you will be able to get the attack off this turn with Iron Thorns, and that is what Sneisuke was hoping to avoid. There is still a route to an attack here next turn for Sneisuke. It's a little bit awkward. You kind of need Pecharunt. Pecharunt,
yes.
Next turn, I'm just saying we'll win the World Championships. Just putting that out.
Did grab a basic Lightning. There was not a DT, so it looks like we are going to see a DT and a Lost City being taken there off that Colress Tenacity. So that means we will see a Volt Cyclone, which is going to be very impactful.
Going to be incredibly impactful. It's going to put Sneisuke on a huge clock here of 1 turn. We see Canceling Cologne. That doesn't do anything. It's just getting it out of the hand. And then we're going to see, are we going to see a Volt Cyclone? Looks like we're going to. Is it time? We're going to wait a minute.
No, I think we are going to see a Volt Cyclone. You're interesting if we decide to bench a Pokemon. We're not. That means there will be no Prime Catcher out. Okay, Shiinosuke, what is that top deck? It's going to be super impactful. It's a judge.
Oh, I don't
debate whether to bench that Iron Thorns, but didn't. So that means it's going to be very hard for Shiinosuke to actually hard, especially if Shiinosuke has to play that judge. I don't think there's Professor Sada in hand, so it might have to be a judge and pray.
Yeah, and unfortunately here, there's no gusting targets on Fernando's bench. We do see the Pecharunt being, I think, discarded with the trekking shoes. I don't...
Stop. Here we go. Catcher, Earthen Vessel, Nest Ball. I don't think that's going to get Shiinosuke.
No, and if that Roaring Moon is in the active at the start of next turn, Fernando is going to be crowned the champion. We see an Earthen Vessel coming out here. One last look through the deck for Sneisuke. You're in that situation here where you're thinking, I've probably lost. I'm going to look through my deck for every possible chance of an out here. Is there anything in the deck that can get a...
For Shiinosuke, just going to conclude that Earthen Vessel.
And there is the hand! Fernando Cifuentes is your 2024 Pokemon
the first card